Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Tracy from SoCalMoms, and I'm here today with Linda Honey from LS Carlson Law. Welcome, Linda.
Hi, Tracy. Very nice to meet you.
Thanks for joining us today. We're excited to talk to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're a mom, and a little bit about your practice at the law firm.
Yes, so I'm a mom of three young children. I'm all in elementary school. I'm an attorney at Ellis Carlson Law, and I specialize in estate planning and asset protection. So I understand what most parents are going through when they're dealing with this subject of protecting their children, their estate. And at Ellis Carlson, we like to help these parents put together a plan that is comforting for them, making sure that their children and their surviving spouse is taken care of if something should happen to them.
Great. So we're going to get more into that in a minute here and talk a lot more about basic estate planning and guardianship, and all the sort of elements. We're going to have you walk us through that. All right, so let's talk more about why estate planning is important for every family, how this concept of guardianship fits into an estate plan, and why families need to cover these topics regardless of sort of their shapes and estate size, all of that stuff. Let's talk about that.
Right. And that's a very common misconception people have is that their estate isn't big enough to have an estate plan. But generally, most families, whether you have a small estate or large estate, will benefit when you plan ahead. Perhaps you don't want your children inheriting at 18, or you have a special family member you want to provide for. Well, trust is the only way you can do that. Now, guardian is special. It's not a trustee. And a guardian is someone who has physical custody of your minor children and takes care of them. So both the trustee and guardians are important people that you trust to take care of your family and your estate when you're no longer there.
Yeah, so I think that's an important point. So, a trust is a system, right, or a legal construct that people are going to use to determine how these things are handled upon their death. But a guardianship sits within that and is about who's going to watch your kids, and that's not necessarily, or who's going to have legal custody of your children, right? And maybe that's not the same as the trustee of your trust, but you're going to tackle both of those matters for people inside this document that you would prepare.
Absolutely. An estate plan is not complete unless you have a trust who is able to take your assets and manage your assets. But those are just things, assets. But you also need a guardian if you have children, minor children, someone to take care of them. And that guardian is nominated by the parents and confirmed by the court. Otherwise, you're at the mercy of the court to name
And
a
that's a good point you bring up. I want to just ask you a little bit about that for a minute, because I think maybe people just assume it's clear who would watch their children, right? Or who would be in charge of their children, or where their assets would go. But that's not true, right? They're subject to probate. And then if they don't have the guardian, that's something where maybe a family disagrees about who should take care of the children. Can you talk a little bit about, if you don't have these documents, then what happens?
Well, if you don't have a trust, unfortunately, you have to go through probate. In California, probate takes about a year to 2 years on average. Right now, I've heard that it takes longer
Mhm.
just because of the courts being backed up.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas a guardian, since it's over your minor children, it's not through probate, but you would have to file a guardianship or conservatorship application. It's a petition to the court. And you can have what we call competing petitions. So if you have multiple family members who want guardianship over your children, which means their family member, they care about your children, but means that they have to fight in court to see who gets guardianship.
All right, thank you. That's helpful clarification. I just want to make sure that we're sort of clear on the distinctions of what happens if you don't have it and why then you would obviously want to have these things and know that your wishes are taken care of and clear, in a written document that's obviously then legally binding.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit about like how we actually go about doing this. You're based in Southern California. You have an office here. Obviously, parents would call you and, in theory, have a consult. I know you've spent a lot of time in your practice thinking about how to make this accessible and affordable and sort of simplified for people so that they can, get this done without it feeling like this overwhelming task that they have to do. Can you talk a little bit about, how you work with families and the structure that you've created?
Absolutely. So I've been doing this for a very long time. And at LS Carlson, what we do, we tackle the most common and most important concerns that families have, and parents especially, which is their surviving spouse and their children. We focus on these issues because it is fairly universal, um, that families want some type of planning. Um, so we have a complete estate plan, and it's customized to meet those concerns that you have, but you're able to name how and when your children inherit, which is a concern for many. We don't pick a number for you. You get to decide that based on your own desires and concerns. But we also have the guardianship nominations, the will, the powers of attorney, and healthcare directives. And those are all very important documents in a complete estate plan.
So you have it all laid out for people. They come in, you're able to walk them through sort of these are the 5 key decisions you're going to need to make. These are, the people and the different pieces of information that you need to sort of think about, and then you organize it into a complete plan. And I know you have a way of doing that for parents that is cost effective, right? It's not some unknown legal bill with hours and hours of work. They know what they're getting into in advance. And you sort of walk them through the steps. So it's also not some unknown amount of work, right? You're going to be there to sort of handhold that piece with them.
Absolutely. When we first have a conference, we'll talk about your specific concerns, what's going to happen at your death without a plan, as your situation is right now. And if you don't like it, then we'll talk about how we can fix it. And in order to help you organize your estate or the people helping your estate, we put together a very concise organizer to kind of help you. It's a form. You don't have to fill it out before the consult, but it helps you kind of think about the people and the things that ultimately has to be your decisions, like who's the guardian and who's the trustee. But those are tough decisions that you would have to make, but it's not going to be an arduous, long form that's going to ask me a lot of questions that you're not concerned about.
Yeah. And these are hard decisions for families, right? They're not easy topics to think about. They're not easy things to decide, but you've created a structure that helps them get done what they need to get done as simplified as possible while understanding that, these are issues that, a lot of us really need to think through on our side. Obviously, that's the piece that you can't do for parents, right? They have to really think about once you've given them this information, what makes sense. And I think that sort of segues into my next question, which is like people like me, for example, I'm a lawyer, so I know a lot about these topics, but still I haven't done everything I should probably do. But my family circumstances have changed, right? So when I did my first trust, my son that's now almost 10, was a baby, and my life was different. Now I have another baby and we own a different home, and we own different businesses, things are different. So how flexible are trusts for people and the sort of the structure that they create as their family changes over time?
Oh, trusts are amazingly flexible. The good thing about this type of planning is that you could change your trust anytime. You could revoke it entirely if you wanted to, right? As your circumstances change, you'll change the terms. It could be a simple amendment, or it could be completely restating the entire trust. But the trust name doesn't change, which means you don't have to go through the hassle of retitling any of your assets. You just change the terms of your trust.
So great. So over time, this is something that really grows with you, if you will, and sort of can grow with your family. And they have some flexibility within, what they create at the beginning.
Yes, absolutely. And as you have more children or more assets, it's just a matter of changing the trust to keep up with your current circumstances.
And so do you stay in touch with your clients in terms of like, as those things happen, they can come back to you, say this changed or that changed. How does that affect my trust? You sort of remain a resource for people that use you for these services.
Absolutely. So annually, our goal is to remind all our clients who has an estate through us of any changes to the estate laws. And as a reminder, if they have circumstances in their personal life that might require updating, that they could contact us and then we can look through their plan together.
All right, great. I think that was all very helpful information. Thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. And we are going to let everybody know how they can get in touch with you and make an appointment to get started on those things that we all maybe take our time with.
Right.
But that
It's
we
normal.
yeah, that we would definitely need to be thinking about. And I mean, I think the one other thing is this is something you need an expert for, right? This is not something that we're going to tackle alone. And so it's great to know that resources like you are available. So thank you, Linda. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Tracy.